high school student with a frail constitution. This town is surrounded by endless rice fields, with a highway cutting through its heart. The highway stretches out like a lifeline, connecting our secluded town to the outside world. My life revolves around the quiet, unassuming streets of this town. One of my cherished routines involves venturing out on weekend mornings. The Philippines boasts a stunning, albeit enigmatic, beauty when bathed in the soft, diffused light of dawn. My weekend ritual begins with the pre-dawn stillness, often around 5 a.m., and I embark on my customary jogging route. My destination is a small hill nestled on the outskirts of town. It provides a breathtaking panoramic view of the entire landscape bathed in the morning's ethereal glow. To reach this serene vantage point, I have to jog alongside the highway. However, the ambiance changes on certain foggy mornings. A dense, chilling fog blankets the highway, turning it into an eerie realm where visibility is reduced to just 10 or 15 feet. On such days, the world transforms, and the mundane town becomes an uncharted territory. One particular Saturday morning stands out in my memory. On that day, I decided to embark on my usual jog. I also invited a close friend who happened to follow the same route. We commenced our journey from home at 5 a.m., the town still enshrouded in a thick, suffocating fog. Passing cars had their headlights on, casting eerie shadows. Roadwork signs lined the highway, marking an ongoing nationwide project to widen all national roads. The fog added a layer of obscurity to the already dimly lit road. As we pressed forward, our steps pounding on the damp asphalt, we encountered a couple of roadwork zones. The journey started uneventfully, despite the physical exertion that was gradually taking its toll. Oddly, we didn't come across any fellow joggers, and the usually bustling hill was strangely deserted. Our jog took a surreal turn when we reached another roadwork site. There, we witnessed a figure crouched down on the asphalt. This person was obscured by a dirty orange vest and an equally grimy hard hat. Their face remained concealed. Initially, we dismissed this figure as a worker involved in the ongoing construction. Perhaps they were merely tending to their tools or machinery. After all, we were alone, except for this enigmatic presence. The fog persisted in its thickness, rendering the surroundings more unsettling. We approached cautiously, our curiosity tinged with unease. As we drew nearer, we noticed something peculiar about this person. They were not engrossed in labor, but rather engaged in a strange, tuneless hum, an eerie melody that resonated through the dense fog. The situation took an ominous twist when the figure suddenly ceased its activity. As I jogged past, they erupted into a fit of laughter. It was no ordinary laugh, for it carried a sinister edge, a haunting quality that reverberated through the fog. The laughter was unnaturally loud, sending shivers down our spines. My friend and I exchanged worried glances, but decided to press on, thinking it might be a bizarre prank. We couldn't afford to turn back now, as the ominous laughter continued to echo through the fog, growing more deranged and disconcerting with each passing second. My heart pounded, and my breath grew shallow, but I forced myself to maintain our pace. The hill was in sight, a beacon of hope in the thick mist. We were determined to reach it, no matter the cost. As I gasped for air, a fear I could barely comprehend propelled me forward. The hill loomed closer, and the sinister laughter gradually faded into the distance. My friend and I didn't dare look back. Our only focus was on the refugee that awaited us. When we finally reached the crest of the hill, exhaustion washed over us. I nearly collapsed onto a cement bench, and we both remained there, waiting for the fog to lift and release us from its grip. The fog eventually dissipated, unveiling the town below us. We breathed a collective sigh of relief, using humor to dispel the tension that still lingered in the air. Laughter, of a more light-hearted kind, punctuated the now cleared atmosphere as we reminisced about the bizarre encounter. Still famished from the jog, and without having had breakfast, we began our descent from the hill. Passing the roadwork site on the way home, we noticed the absence of the enigmatic figure. The only people in construction attire were the ones managing traffic, and none of them resembled the mysterious individual we had encountered earlier. When I arrived home, I recounted the unnerving experience to my parents. They dismissed it as another strange occurrence in our peculiar town. Nevertheless, the memory of that foggy morning still lingers in my mind. Since that day, I have never ventured out for a jog on foggy mornings, avoiding the unsettling mysteries concealed within the mist. This happened when I was around 12, while traveling between a large Irish town and a smaller one with my mother and my 11-year-old niece. My niece and I were buckled up in the back seat, and my mother was driving. The weather was eerie, with dense fog and a drizzle, setting the stage for an extraordinary tale. Our school started at 7:25, but I had to be there half an hour earlier for an AP chemistry test. We lived about 30 minutes away from school, so my mom and I left home at around 6:25. The fog was thick that morning, shrouding the world in a hazy curtain of uncertainty. The road stretched out before us, barely visible, and we proceeded with caution. We approached a four-way stop sign, and the surroundings were eerily quiet. A subway stood to our left, and a hair salon occupied the right. On the other side of the intersection, there was a strip mall and a convenience store. As we waited at the intersection, a car appeared in the convenience store's parking lot, waiting to turn right in the same direction we were headed. What was strange was that he hadn't moved, even though we hadn't reached the intersection yet. This unusual behavior piqued our curiosity, but we continued driving. The car from the parking lot started following us, and the driver began repeatedly flashing his high beams at us. It was a bizarre and unsettling experience, and we exchanged anxious glances. The dense fog added an extra layer of tension to the situation. The strange car continued to tail us, flashing its lights as we approached a red traffic light. This light marked our intended right turn, taking us further down the road before making a left onto the highway, our usual route to school. My mother had a plan. She intended to stop briefly at the red light and then accelerate, hoping to shake off our persistent follower. However, before we could make our turn, the car behind us rammed into our vehicle. We were now beyond frightened. My mother reacted quickly, deciding to speed the rest of the way to my school. Thankfully, the unsettling encounter ended there, and we reached the school without further incident. Upon close inspection, there appeared to be no damage to our car. It seemed that the other driver was trying to force us to pull over, using the limited visibility to his advantage. I couldn't help but shiver at the thought of what might have happened if the situation had escalated further. That foggy morning remains etched in my memory, a reminder of the mysteries concealed within the shroud of the unknown. This peculiar incident occurred around 2 years ago, on an average winter day when I was 16. I had previously encountered a Michael Myers impersonator, which is a story worth recounting in its own right. Since then, my family has relocated to Florida, and our lives have settled into a quiet routine. School started at 7:25, but I had an early morning advanced placement, a chemistry test that required me to arrive half an hour earlier. Our home was situated about 30 minutes away from the school, And so my mother and I set out at 6:25, well before the break of dawn. The morning was anything but ordinary. The fog outside was exceptionally dense, reducing visibility to a mere few feet ahead. It was so dark that we could hardly discern the outlines of nearby objects. As we embarked on our journey, the world outside was veiled in an unsettling mist. Our progress was slow as we cautiously navigated the fog-shrouded road, traveling at a mere 20 miles per hour on a 35-mile-per-hour stretch. The world beyond the car's windshield seemed cloaked in a shroud of secrets and uncertainty. We reached a four-way stop sign, surrounded by eerie silence. To our left stood a Subway restaurant, while a hair salon occupied the right side of the intersection. Across from us, there lay a strip mall and a convenience store. As we waited at the intersection, an unexpected presence caught our attention. A car emerged from the convenience store's parking lot, positioned to turn right in the same direction we were headed. What made this encounter bizarre was the fact that the driver had not yet moved, even though we hadn't reached the intersection. We hesitated, but eventually continued driving. To our alarm, the car from the parking lot began to follow us, the driver repeatedly flashing their high beams. The dense fog created a disconcerting backdrop for this unusual pursuit, amplifying our sense of unease. The strange car persisted in tailing us as we approached a red traffic light. This light marked our intended right turn, a path that would lead us further down the road before making a left onto the highway, our customary route to school. My mother had a strategy in mind. She planned to briefly stop at the red light and then accelerate in an attempt to shake off our persistent pursuer. However, just before we could execute our turn, we were now well beyond mere alarm. My mother's instincts kicked in, and she decided to accelerate, speeding the remainder of the way to my school. Fortunately, the unsettling ordeal concluded there, and we reached the school without further incident. Upon inspecting our car, we discovered no apparent damage. It appeared as though the other driver had attempted to force us to pull over, taking advantage of the limited visibility provided by the fog. The chilling encounter had left an indelible mark on my memory, a constant reminder of the enigmatic and unsettling aspects of our world.